Before we get started on the Dharma talk, please join me in invoking the Buddha's name 3 times. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha Namo Shakyamuni Buddha Namo. Good afternoon, Venerable monastics and Sangha. The Dhammapada 62, but probably not. As usual, we'll recite the verse, give the story behind the verse, and the commentary. So verse 61 goes, if a disciple on his journey does not meet with one who is his better or equal, let him firmly keep to his solitary journey. There is no companionship with the foolish. Who is his better or equal, let him firmly keep to his solitary journey. There is no companionship with the foolish. This verse was given, it's actually the story behind this verse is about Mahakashyapa, one of the Buddha's main and most senior disciples. The Buddha at the time was still staying in Savatthi, but Mahakashyapa was staying in Rajaga. And at the time, he was living in a cave with two novice students, very diligent in their practice, doing what needs to be done, attending to his teacher, and doing all the duties a novice would do. The second novice, on the other hand, was pretty much the exact opposite. He was lazy, he was negligent, and did not keep up with his practices or studies. The better student would wake up before dawn every day to heat water from Mahakashyapa's bath. Mahakashyapa at the time, or still is, but at the time was very elderly. He was actually one of the oldest monastics in the Sangha at the time. And so the students would give him warm baths every morning to kind of just, ease his muscles and body and whatnot. And so the good student would prepare hot water every morning for Mahakashyapa, would prepare other items for his teacher. The bad student would then wake up, would sleep in, basically, right? He would sleep in and wake up, and he would go out and see that everything's already prepared for his teacher. And then would go to Mahakashyapa and say, Venerable Sir, your hot water is ready, your teeth brushes are prepared for you, and whatnot. So he was basically taking credit for the other student and whatnot. Eventually, the good student, I'm going to stop using quotations. The good student had noticed this at one point and was like, oh, how dare he? This dude's taking all this credit for my work. And so he did what I would now call up himself. Well, I'm going to make sure that my teacher knows that this fool is being a fool. And so as he was preparing the hot water for the bath, instead of filling up the cauldron, right, in the bathhouse and boiled the water, he just put a little bit of water in there so that when it boils, there's still steam. So it looks like there's plenty of water. And so when the bad student would wake up and he would, pass by the water house, Mahakashyapa, that his bath was ready, his brushes were ready, his seat was ready, etc., etc. And then when the student would go back to get the water to put in the bath, he noticed that there was no water in here. He's like freaking out. He got just really angry, or wherever they fetch water from, to get the water. And Mahakashyapa was like, where's this guy going, right? And so when he came back, the student had to essentially confess what had happened. And Mahakashyapa admonished him and told him that what he had done is not what a monastic should do. Right? That is not the way a student, especially lie about it. And so the student kind of started to kind of begrudge Mahakashyapa. Back and he's like, I don't want to go. He's been all huffing, puffing, pissing, so he didn't want to go. But as Mahakashyapa and the good student were out in alms, the other students then decided to go to one of the houses of Mahakashyapa's bigger supporters and tell them that Mahakashyapa was sick and feeling ill, and the bad student ate said food that was prepared for his teacher. And so there was that. And while Mahakashyapa, I'm not sure if it's the same day or a different day, but as Mahakashyapa and the good student were also out in alms, they were offered, or at least Mahakashyapa was offered some new robes. And traditionally, when monks or nuns are offered robes, full ordination robes, right? Novices only get one robe, full ordained monks and nuns get 3. And so the new robes is to prepare for those new robes. Anyway, and so the student got new robes, brand spanking new robes. And then the next day or a few other days, when Mahakashyapa went back to that house that the bad student went to and got some feeling, are you feeling okay? Mahakashyapa was like, what are you talking about? Like, well, your other students said that you were feeling sick and to prepare some quality food for you. So we did, and we offered it to the students. Mahakashyapa was in the cave and confronted the bad students. And the bad student was like, first he's upset about the water, and now he's upset about some food. So again, he had got admonished and got reprimanded for his unmonkly actions. And so the student became super irritated and annoyed. It's like this WTF, basically, right? So the next morning, I keep saying next morning, I don't know if it's actually next morning or not, but you get the gist. The next morning when Mahakashyapa, so as they were out, he went into the cave and essentially the bedding and set the place on fire. So, and then he ran off and it was never seen again. And of course, then once Mahakashyapa came back with the good student, we're like, well, it is what it is, right? There's nothing you can do about it. So they just continued on with their life. But then the story got back to the Buddha, because the Buddha had asked one monk that was visiting Rashagraha, because again, Mahakashyapa was older and one of his senior monastics. And the monk had told him that story of the students. And that's when the Buddha gave this verse. I'll repeat the verse. There is no companionship with the foolish. This is a verse because it doesn't just apply to our spiritual life, it applies to our personal lives as well. We can all kind of relate to this story. Not that we live in caves and have attendants attending us, but just in general life, we've all had, I'm sure, occasions where we had bad friends, right? Or people that we should not be associated with. Emphasizing the importance to associate with people who are moral, who are diligent, who are, as he mentioned, either equal or better to you spiritually, especially in a spiritual sense, right? The only way that we can learn is by learning from those who have already learned. So whether it's monastics, monks or nuns, or people who have practiced and studied longer than you have, right? This is why we have the Sangha, the community of practitioners. These here, but in general, may not be virtuous in their practice, but it is a conducive environment to practice in, right? You're surrounded by practitioners, by people who may have more knowledge than you, may have more wisdom than you, may have more realizations than you, and these are the people that you want to associate with. And to be associated with those that do not benefit your practice or benefit your life in general, then there's no reason to associate with them, to surround yourself with one person in our life where we just knew that they weren't good people, right? They weren't very, or doing crime or, just bad things, right? Whatever it may be, I can't think of anything right now. But where we knew that their influence was negative or could impact, why when I bring up the why meditation, right? When we are contemplating or meditating on something that is bothering us or causing us dissatisfaction or suffering, you continually question yourself, right? Why am I feeling this way? Or why is this person, why, right? Every time you get an answer, you question that answer again. You get another answer, and you question another answer, and you question, so you get to the core root of the issue or the problem. And this core issue or problem could be anything, but in the majority of cases, it's always, not always, but the conclusion comes that that the suffering is caused by a person. Now you have the decision to make. And the decision is to either distance yourself from this person, to change the type of relationship you have with this person, to cut them off completely, right? You'll know what needs to be done in life. If a person does not bring you any benefit, does not stimulate you intellectually or spiritually or professionally even, then they have no use. This isn't to say we shouldn't have friends, right? Because not everybody in our life is useful, quote unquote. But what the Buddha is trying to emphasize here is the type of people that we're associating with, right? Because we can't always be associated with people that are equal or better than us in our life. But the point is to not be associated with people who are the opposite of who we should be associating with, right? So if someone is just morally or intellectually ignorant, that they are ignorant to good causes, ignorant to doing generous acts, or ignorant in thinking, saying, or doing wholesome things, right? These are the people. Associate yourself with people that are better than you professionally, right? This is why people network, so that we can learn from them, right? This is why we have mentors professionally. If you work in a professional environment, a lot of people have mentors, right? These mentors are someone that are better than them, they're more knowledgeable than them, that are highly respected and highly influential in their field. And these are the type of people, right? And by means, no, not perfect or fully enlightened, but I hope I can at least help in some way, shape, or form, if I can. If not, I'm sorry. But the point is to recognize the type of people in your life and question life. Is this helpful for me or to others? Or is this harmful? Is this harmful to me or to others, right? This is the guiding decision maker in your life. So whenever you're making a big decision or you're going through something in life, you can ask yourself, well, what is what I want to do next harmful to me or to others? And if it is, then you don't do it. If you're questioning it and you're like, I don't know if it's harmful or not, then you don't do it. Right? So we can question yes or no. Are they benefiting me professionally, spiritually, romantically, right? Whatever may be the situation. And so to be surround yourself with people that are moral, that are diligent, that are beneficial to your learning, to your studies, and these are the type of people you want to associate with. Even in the Mangala Sutta, the sutra on happiness. The very first point that the Buddha makes is to not associate with fools. This is the greatest happiness. This is the greatest blessing. And it's mentioned through many different sutras and the types of people that bodhisattvas should teach and not teach, right? Because in Buddhism there are types of people who are unteachable. Because they don't have the capacity to absorb the Dharma. They don't have the capacity or the wisdom or the knowledge that is enough to be held onto, right? It goes in one ear, goes out the other, right? This also doesn't mean that we can't help people, right? Because we may see people that, from a distance, we may see like, oh, these are sattvas as future Buddhas, right? That's essentially our job, is to help all sentient beings. And so if the desire to help comes out of pity and compassion, then we go and try to help this person. But then the Buddha advises us that if we go and help this person, as long as that they're not the nimittahina, right? Because you can try to teach them the Dharma, but after a while, if they still don't get it, if they're unwilling to change, unwilling to develop, unwilling to understand, right? We can try to advise our friends, try to influence them the best way possible, whatever it may be, but there's no amount of power that you can ever have that will ever change someone's mind, that will ever change the way that they are. If someone wants to change, they have to be willing to want to change. The desire to become enlightened. You can't force enlightenment on someone. I can't force enlightenment on anyone. You have to have the desire to want to become enlightened, and you have to have a desire to have to go through the trials and errors of our practice in order to get to enlightenment. Because to get enlightened is not easy. It's not something that we can just sit and meditate on and hope for the best. Right? It requires tremendous work. It requires tremendous sacrifice of our habitual life in order to get what we want first. But this whole chapter is one of my favorites because it's about foolishness. And those that know me know that I have no time. It's this entire chapter is a great reminder to remind ourselves of what we're trying to accomplish. It's very easy in our everyday life it's very easy to come to the temple and sit, listen to the Dharma talk, do some chanting, do some meditating, and be all zenned out and leave. You just go back to your regular, chaotic, unmindful, unspiritual life, right? And you forget everything that you just practiced for the last hour and a half. And we go on about our lives hoping for the best without really or practicing even at home, once a week or a few minutes a day. That in itself is not going to be enough. And this is one of the great reasons why the Buddha emphasizes our practice, emphasizes why certain things become important in our practice, especially necessarily like rules and regulations or commandments that we have to follow. The Buddha is telling you, if you're taking precepts, the precepts are there to keep you accountable for your thoughts, speech, and actions. Otherwise, if you want to practice and you take precepts and you break the precepts intentionally, right? Because there's a difference between unintentionally breaking a precept and run over a deer, step on animals, right? Kill bugs as they splash on our windshield in the car. All these are unintentional takings of life. But if you're going out there looking for something to kill, right? There's a difference. That is breaking the precept. But the precepts are there to keep us mindful of our practice, right? To abstain from killing, abstain from lying, abstain. All these are just common sense things, These are not anything profoundly spiritual or religious in nature, right? These are things that if we abstain, we'll just naturally aware of our thoughts, speech, and actions, right? Do any of these 5 precepts sound very religious to you? No. Common sense. Don't kill. You're going to go to jail. Don't lie. You're going to ruin your reputation. Don't commit sexual misconduct. Don't be a homewrecker. Don't steal, right? Don't want to go to jail, or again, don't take intoxicants. So now you either go to jail, you have to, or you die, or whatever it may be, right? These are common sense things. They're nothing profound in nature necessarily, but they are observed to help us recognize the types of situations that we put ourselves in. Aspirations are all mind-centered. We have to make this mental promise, I suppose, to ourselves that we want to become better people in life. We want to become happier. We want to have less suffering and not to suffer, and to, walk through life in rainbows and butterflies or whatever. I don't know. However you want to live your life. Is the places you put yourself in, is the type of circumstances you allow your mind to be. If we are mindful, truly mindful, if we're truly aware, then in our life, we can automatically have full control over it. Because we are not in control of anything in our life. You think we're in control of ourselves. You're not in control of anything. If you were in control of yourself, then at will, you'd be able to never become angry. At will, you'll never at will, you would have the capacity to be able to stop and to go through the situation versus responding or reacting in a negative, unwholesome way like we normally do. So we have no control of anything. And to pretend you have control over something makes you even extra ignorant. But knowing that we don't have control makes you wise. Because now what I am trying to do is have control over something, right? And so to even just make that aspiration that I want to control my mind is a good thing. Because if you pretend like you have control, you have just as much control as an ant trying to build this temple. Questions, concerns? Yes.
Word spiritual means
to me?
To you in general, because I've heard this word thrown around a lot, and I haven't really pinpointed like the exact definition, because every time I hear it, it's in a different context.
I can answer that question for you. But when I'm referencing the word spiritual, I'm talking about the practice of Buddhism, practice of the Buddha Dharma. But yes, the word spiritual is very ambiguous and can mean anything and everything, unfortunately.
Is the spirit, is that just a way of referring to our intrinsic value and our Buddha nature?
Can be, yeah.
To me, spirituality is something like the harmony, the universe, with everything. We think it's harmony.
The definition of spiritual is very subjective. Don't worry about what it means. Worry about what you do, not what you think.
For me, like if I relate the scripture with attitude, the attitude is not under control. Always it's thinking behavior or running around, like wrong thinking, and you react, and it's like all over chain of reactions and all shoot. But if you don't react, if attitude, then it's
some reason, as you were saying that, I had this vision of speaking of, there's a handful of us that are pretty young, so, but for the older one, for us older folk, at least in, excuse me, in my own life back in the day, thinking of like friend groups and being with friends, typically when one stupid friend makes a decision to do something stupid, the rest of the flock follow, right? And mindful companionship we need to be aware of, because as Vinny just mentioned, if our reaction to a situation is unwholesome or negative, then our actions beyond the ignorant or stupid friend in doing stupid things, and you follow doing stupid ignorant things, and you're just creating a waterfall of stupid decisions because you're associating with stupid people. So don't associate with stupid people. As hard as that is sometimes. Just because. No. Foolish here specifically is foolish in wisdom, foolish in merit, foolish in virtue. People who lack merit and virtue and contemplation, right? If someone can follow, that is a wise person. If someone cannot follow morality, wisdom, and concentration, then they are foolish. Evil's another subjective thing, right? What is evil? We created the concept of evil. But even evil, right, can be assuaged, can be changed. What's his name? What's the murderous dude that was cutting off fingers or something? Oh, I can't remember his name. But we did a parable on it last year, I think. But there was a man, people. I don't know how that makes any sense, but whatever. He would kill these people and cut off their fingers, I think it was their fingers, as talismans, right? And so needed one more. And so I was like, well, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and kill my mother, because that's a good idea, right? But as he was on his way to do this, the Buddha was on alms and noticed this man, and the man noticed the Buddha and was like, well, there's someone right there, I'm going to go ahead and try to murder him. And so he was running after the Buddha. The story goes is as this man was running after the Buddha, right? The man was running, and so he was like, what is going on here? Like, why am I not being able to catch up to this man who's simply just walking and I'm running? So anyway, that continues for a while until the man gives up, and then all of a sudden the Buddha just kind of appears behind him and questions him and asks what he was doing. Some profound teaching that I can't think of off the top of my head right now, that caused the man to see his recklessness and his ignorance and his desire to kill, and transformed and became a monk. Right, because he was like, oh, this is a murder, and they were questioning the Buddha, oh, why did you allow this murderer, literal murderer, to become a monastic, a holy person, a person worthy of veneration? And the Buddha was just telling him, it doesn't matter who or what you are, we all have the capacity to become enlightened, regardless of our misdeeds, the negative karmic actions that we've become. Anyway, that's kind of the point. So it doesn't matter, even as a murderer, we have the capacity to become enlightened. If that man did not have the capacity, then he would be, I keep forgetting the word. Any last minute questions? Sure.
So you had said, I think it was, do not provoke
It does make sense, but that's a loaded question. I don't have any. We have 3 checkpoints, right? The mind, speech, and action. And our actions have to come from either following speech or following our mind. You know what I mean? Mind here, I mean thinking. Thinking and the mind of having mind. And so even when we do actions, especially like habitual ones, like just think of this morning or think of this weekend, right? Or last week. Do you remember the moments, the few first moments that you just woke up? Do you remember getting out of bed? Do you remember touching the ground? Do you remember getting up and changing and brushing your teeth and getting ready for work or school? Do you remember all those little moments? You don't, right? Because those are habitual actions that we do. So we have kind of programmed, right? It's already there. It's already happening in the mind. We're already thinking of getting up. We're already thinking of moving. We're already thinking of getting ready and dressed and eating and et cetera, et cetera. But then to understand our actions, right, we have to understand what the mind is going through. Buddhism is a mind-centered, because it's only through that practice that we can penetrate deeply the mind and see things as they are, right? That's the goal of Buddhism, to see reality for what it is. Perceptions that we have, it's not the ideas that we have and displeasures. Everything that we experience in life is not reality. These are simply just a reflection of our own perceptions. And the majority of our perceptions are false, are erroneous, because they are created by our environments, created by the experiences that we have, created by our likes and dislikes and happy moments and sad moments and traumas, etc., etc. But just because you experience something doesn't mean it's true, doesn't mean it's correct. And so our actions, unfortunately, most of the time follow why we do such actions. We have to understand why the mind decided that this action is the correct one to follow or to do. In order to do that, we have to practice our meditation. Right? Meditation is the only way to be able to unlock our potential for enlightenment. There is no other way that we have the capacity or the place to contemplate truly, to understand our mind truly, to understand our decisions, to understand our Satipatthana, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. These are the practices that will cause us to attain enlightenment. So to also add to that, to that answer, this goes back to questioning yourself. Whatever you do in life, question yourself. Every time you have a desire or a need or a want, question yourself. Why do I want this? Why do I want to eat this? Why do I want to go here? Why do I want to do that? Everything. Because it's only through questioning that we can start to drill down and pull away these layers in our mind that are causing us suffering and dissatisfaction to find that root cause. Right? And once we find that root cause, then we can pluck it out and have one less suffering in life. We may have a million others, but observe all of your thoughts, speech, and actions. Where did they come from? How did they arise? Why did they arise? And it's only through understanding the mind that we can understand the Dharma. By understanding the Dharma, we can understand how enlightenment can occur. Yes, sir.
The trick is to know what we're thinking. To know what we're thinking.
To know what we're thinking?
Because now I'm not lost, I'm not off in some fantasy based on my thoughts.
Right.
I'm back to here, then I'm sitting on this cushion having this thought.
Right. Because in meditation, it's not to sit and not think. Right? People have this misconception that to meditate is to sit in complete silence with no thoughts, no thinking, an empty mind. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Silence actually stay silent. A few seconds, maybe a minute. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. That's not the point of meditation. The point of meditation is to know that you're thinking. So when a thought arises, when a distraction arises, you know, I am thinking, I am distracted. Right? And by distracting you, why the mind brings up these thoughts and opinions and feelings and emotions, by knowing these things is what will free you. Otherwise, you're just sitting, doing what? Just sitting. If you want to sit, go home and watch TV and sit. Yes, ma'am.
So thoughts are important for figuring out the world around you.
To the world around you. To see why the world around you is the way that it is. Or to see it for what it is, sorry. It's not easy. I can't sit here and say, oh yeah, it's the easiest thing you can ever do in your life. It's not. You can't unrealize what you have realized. I'm going to bring up a point that I don't really want to, but I feel like I should because it's applicable. In the process of questioning, in the process of thinking, right? Because in Buddhism, there is the very big topic of non-self, and Atman. And the way to realize that do that is by literally questioning our questions. Meaning we question who is asking these questions. When you're thinking, who is thinking? Because if you're truly talking to yourself, then there wouldn't be any thinking, right? Because we come from, right? Because if we're thinking, that means there's the thinking and there's something else that's listening to the thinking. Right? We don't have two little men in our head. Like that, what is that movie? The people in the head? The kids movie? Huh? Scientifically, yes. But anyway, there's no little men in our head, right, controlling what we think, do, and say. And so figure out who's thinking. Who's this person listening to the thoughts? And when we realize that there's nothing, no one listening to these thoughts, then we can recognize how useless these thoughts can be, how unnecessary they are. Okay, I'm going to stop there. We'll go ahead. For any positive karmic action we've accumulated here today, we wish to transfer beings and wish them full light. Now is burning all the Dharma realm in every place, auspicious clouds appearing, our sincere intention thus fulfilling, as all homage to the incense cloud cannot, Bodhisattva and great Bodhisattva. In gratitude we offer this incense to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, self-reflecting our careful efforts, our wholehearted mindfulness, and the fruit understanding slowly ripen, and all being Bodhisattvas, may we awaken from forgetfulness. Homage to the eternally abiding Buddhas, the supreme Dharma and sagely Sangha throughout the Dharma universal guarding Venerable Bodhisattvas and the glorious mountain assembly of Buddha. Homage to Amitabha Buddha in the land of ultimate bliss, Avalokiteshvara, great compassion Bodhisattva, great strength Bodhisattva, restored great Bodhisattva and Bodhisattva. The unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of eons. I now see and hear, receive and uphold it, and Namo Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. A pilgrim briefly in this world, I am grateful to hear once more Lotus Sutra. The Buddha moon is hidden, the sun of Maitreya not yet arisen, in the long night's darkness in between, only the Lotus Sutra sheds its light. The day will be fivefold Dharma with his 6 roots cleansed, and then he who chants the Lotus Sutra is guarded by a heavenly host. He wanders the world without fear like a lion king. Namo Sadharma Pundarika Sutra, Dika Sutra. chapter 14. Chapter 14, Peaceful Practices. At the time, Manjushri Dharma Prince Bodhisattva and Mahasattva said to the Buddha, world honorific, because they revere and obey the Buddha, they have taken a great vow that in the evil age hereafter they will guard uphold the evil age hereafter. How should these bodhisattvas and mahasattvas go about preaching the suit? The Buddha said to Manjushri, if there are bodhisattvas who in the evil age hereafter wish with fearless hearts to preach the suit, these are the places they should enter and the persons they should close: kingdoms, high ministers, heads of offices, those engaged in hazardous amusements, as well as Chandalas, non-Buddhists, and Brahmins. One should not associate with persons of overbearing arrogance or those who stubborn adhere to the lesser vehicle and are learned. It's 3 storehouses, monks who violate the resting and laughter, women, lay believers who are profoundly attached to the 5 desires, or who seek immediate entry into extinction. All these one should not associate with. If there are persons who come with good, then the bodhisattva with a fearless heart but without harboring expectation should preach the law for. But widows and unmarried women and eunuchs, all these he should not associate. Or flesh carvers, those who hunt animals, or kill or do harm for profit, those who peddle meat for a living, or display women and sell their favors. All persons such as these one should never associate. Those engaged in hazardous sports, wrestling, never associate with any of these. Monks should never go alone into an enclosed place to preach the law to a woman. When you preach the law, let there be no jesting or laugh. When you enter a village, you beg for food, take another monk with you. If there is no other monk around with a single mind, concentrate on the Buddha. These are what I call proper practices in association. By being careful in terms of superior, medial, or inferior doctrines of condition or the unconditioned, of the real or the not real. Again, one should not make distinctions by saying this is a man, this is a woman. Do not try to apprehend phenomena to Tattva. All phenomena are empty without being, without any constant abiding with arising or extinction. This I call the position the wise person associates himself with. From upside down this come distinctions. Exist, do not exist, are real, are not real, are born, are tranquil, unmoving like Mount Sumeru. Look upon all phenomena as having no existence, like empty space, as without firmness or hardness. Now I call the place to draw near to. If after I have distinction there are monks who take up these practices and these associates, at times enter a quiet room and with the correct mental attitude will view phenomena according to the doctrine and then raise meditation will for the princes, ministers, and people, the Brahmins and others uphold, propagate, expound, and preach the suit. Then his mind will be tranquil, free of quailing and timidity. Manjushri, these I call the first set of rules for the Bodhisattva to abide by, to enable him in later ages should be bound, he should spread his sitting mat, anoint his body with oil, wash away dust and impurity, put on a new clean robe and make himself both inwardly and outwardly pure, seating himself comfortable in the Dharma seat. He should preach the law in accordance with questions if there are monks or nuns, men, women, lay believers, rulers, and he should preach for them the subtle and wonderful doctrines. If there are difficult questions, should answer them in accordance with the doctrines, employing causes and conditions, similes and parables to expound and make increase their benefits little by little. Enter the Buddha way, he should put aside all ideas of laziness, all thoughts of negligence or ease, remove himself from cares and work, and with a compassionate mind preach the law day and night constantly. He should expound the teachings of the unsurpassed, employing causes and conditions, full clothing and bedding, food, drink, medicine. With regard to such things, he should have no expectations, but with a single mind concentrate upon preaching the law, desiring to complete the Buddha way and to cause those in the assembly to do likewise. Our monks who are able to expound the lotus of the wonderful law, their minds will be free of jealousy and anger, of all worry and hindrance, sword or staff, nor will there because they abide in patience. Wise persons will be good at cultivating their minds like this and be able to abide in peace, as I have described above. The blessings of such persons are beyond calculation. Similarly, or also manjushri, if a bodhisattva or mahasattva in the latter age hereafter, when the law is about to perish, if you wish to preach the sutra, you must set aside jealousy, hatred, arrogance, a mind that is fawning, deceitful, false, and constantly practice honest and upright conduct. Do not look with contempt on others or hold frivolous debates. Do not cause others to have doubts or regrets by saying he is at all times gentle and full of forbearance, having pity and compassion on forgiving way to a negligent or slothful mind. The great bodhisattvas of the 10 directions had a pity for the multitude to carry out the way. One should strive to respect and revere them, saying these are mine. As unsurpassed fathers wipe out the mind of pride and arrogance and preach the law without hindrance, touches the mind. Guard and obey them if with a single mind they observe these peaceful practices. They will be respected by immeasurable multitudes. At the time the world honored one spoken verse form, say constantly practice perseverance, have pity on all beings, and do your best to expound and preach the sutra. Should with regard to persons in the household, persons who have left, or persons who are not bodhisattvas, cultivate pity and compassion, saying if they do not listen to and do not believe this, will employ expedient means and preach this law for them, causing them to abide in those. There is a powerful wheel-turning king, his soldiers have won merit in battle, and he rewards them with various precious objects, men and women, servants, wealth and goods delight, bestowing all these. But if there is someone brave and stalwart who can carry out difficulties, the king will remove the bright jewel from his top knot and present it to them, and the thus come one is like this. He acts as king, doctrines possessing the great power of perseverance. In accordance with the law, he sees all persons as they undergo suffering and anxiety, seeking to gain emancipation, battling devils, and for the sake of these living beings, he preaches various doctrines, employing great expedient means and preaching these sutras. And when he knows that living beings have gained power through them, his expression fresh and bright. Heavenly beings will wait on him and serve him. Swords and staves will not touch him, and poison will have no power to harm them. If people speak ill and revile him, their mouths will be closed and stopped up. He will stroll out, fear like the Lion King. The brilliance of his wisdom will be like the shining of the sun. Even in his dreams he will see only wonderful things. He will see the dust come one seated in dirt, and others numerous as Genji stands reverently pressing their palms together. He will see himself there and will preach the law for them again. He will see Buddhas, their bodies marked by a golden hue, emitting immeasurable rays that light up all things, employing Brahma sounds to expound the doctrines for the four kinds of belief. The Buddha will preach the unsurpassed law, and he will see himself. He will hear the law and delight, and will offer alms. He will obtain dharanis and proof of the wisdom without regression. And when the Buddha knows that his mind has entered deep away, then he will give him a prophecy that he will attain the highest, the correct, enlightened. You good man in an age to come will let broad and gray with the four kinds of believers who press their palms together and listen to the law again. He will see himself in the midst of mountains and forests, practicing the good law, standing the true entity of all phenomena, deeply entering meditation and seeing the Buddhas of the 10 directions of Lord, listening to the law and preaching it to people. Such will be the good dreams he constantly dreams. Again he will dream he is king of a country, but casts aside palaces and attendants and the superb and wonderful object. The 5 desires repairs to the place of practice, and under the Bodhi tree seats himself in alliance, seeking the way, and after that way he rises up and turns the wheel of the preaching the law for the believers for thousands and thousands, millions of kalpas, preaching the wonderful law free of outflow, saving immeasurable living be. Afterward he will enter nirvana like smoke coming to an end when a lamp goes out. If in that evil age hereafter someone preaches this for both. Please go to tab 9, page 171. Heart of the Prajnaparamita, the Bodhisattva Avalokita, while moving in the deep course of Prajnaparamita, shed light on the 5 skandhas and found them equally. The form is emptiness, emptiness is form, form is not other than emptiness, emptiness is not other than form. The same is true as feelings, perception, mental formation, consciousness. Listen, Shari Putra. bodhisattvas, Namo Deva guarding bodhisattvas, Namo Deva guarding bodhisattvas. I take rest the way in this life. I take rest in the Dharma and of love. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community in harmony. Dwelling in the refuge of Buddha, I clearly see the being in the refuge of Dharma. I learn to open many doors on the path of transformation. Dwelling in the refuge of Sangha, shining my practice free of obstruction. In myself I aspire to help all people recognize their own wakened nature, realizing the mind of love, taking refuge in the Dharma. In myself I aspire to help all people fully on the path of liberation, taking refuge in the Sangha. In myself I aspire to help all people build fourfold communities to their transformation. Reciting the sutras, rise to benefits without limits. We vow to share the fruits with all beings. We vow to offer tribute to numerous beings who give guidance and support